Does banning American alcohol, does that help? Does saying, we're not going to America, does that help? Those are decisions for Canadians on an individual basis, to make.
Back to Closer Look across the Village Media Network and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Closer Look, podcast.ca. And of course, you can throw us a subscribe on YouTube at Closer Look Podcast. I'm Scott Sexsmith. This is Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief. It's Friday. We made it to the end of the week and a huge show tonight.
Yeah, look at all these papers. We look like we have so much going on. There's 50 pens.
And look like we know what we're doing.
Yeah, you know what? We have spent a lot of time prepping for this. We do have a big guest on today, Pete Hoekstra. He's the U.S. Ambassador to Canada under Donald Trump. He's been the ambassador since April. Right. From Michigan. So
yes. You know what's ironic? He got appointed the day after Mark Carney won the election.
Yes, that's right. I wonder if President Trump was waiting to see who won the election before, and I'm sure that's not the case.
No.
But to your credit, you have reached out to them a couple months ago asking for him to come on, and this has been kind of booked in the calendar for a little while.
Yes, circled.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to solve all the trade problems facing our country in the next half an hour. But great opportunity to chat with a very seasoned, experienced politician and diplomat who's been around the block. He's been doing this for a long time, and definitely an interesting guy. And he's been vocal about what he thinks of, the alcohol ban in Ontario in Canada, for example, things like that. And so it'll be fascinating to chat with him.
Very pleased to be joined by U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, on Closer Look tonight. Mr. Ambassador, we appreciate the time. Great to see you.
It's good to be with you. I think we'll find out, right?
That's what all our guests say.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll be gentle. Ambassador, as we record this today, the world is watching as the FBI continues to investigate the shooting death of Charlie Kirk, a well-known conservative political activist who was close to President Donald Trump. Did you know Charlie, Ambassador, and what's going through your mind as we continue to learn more as this situation unfolds?
I knew Charlie. I didn't know him very well, but I've interacted with him on a limited basis. And what's going through my mind, it's just a sad day. It's a sad day for America. It's an awful day for Charlie's family, his friends, the universe, and the sphere that he moved in. It's so tragic. I'm thrilled that he and his family are a family of faith, which gives that family a spirit of hope and optimism as they go through this very, very dark time.
Is it encouraging to see so many world leaders, including Prime Minister Carney here in Canada, for example, condemning this attack and all forms of political violence?
Of course it is. I mean, we're also right on the cusp of remembering 9/11. Mm-hmm. And I was in Washington at that time and seeing how our friends and our allies stepped up at what was, again, a very dark moment in American history, but recognizing that Canada stood up and I think in Gander welcomed 6,000 folks who thought that they were heading to the United States of America and that they were being diverted. But knowing that we had our friend and ally in Canada saying, hey, how can we help? What can we do today to help America as you're struggling with those tragic events on that day? Of course it helps that our friends are stepping up and expressing their condolences, their prayers, and that for America at this time.
Okay, we're going to have a great conversation over the next 20 minutes or so, Ambassador. Of course, the reason we invited you to come on the show is because you're the new U.S. Ambassador to Canada. You were appointed back in April and been on the job now for a few months, and you've obviously spent a good portion of that time talking to many Canadians. What have you learned about us that you maybe didn't already know?
Well, I think the things that I've learned are things that I can't talk about. So I've made some observations, and oh, okay, that's the Canadian personality and those types of things. And so you'll have to buy my book after I retire, and I can share some of those. But we have a deep friendship. But I knew that before, having lived in Michigan. I knew that and experienced it very much when I was in the Netherlands, because when I was the ambassador of the Netherlands, we had we commemorated the 75th anniversary of World War II, mm-hmm. and both the Canadians and the Americans have a deep history with the Dutch in terms of World War II. You hosted the royal family. You experienced and fought in the Battle of the Scheldt, which was a very difficult battle that was led by the Canadians. We had the Battle of Market Garden, Operation Market Garden. There are lots of Canadians who are buried in the Netherlands. We have the Margraten Cemetery, which has slightly over 10,000 Americans who are buried in Margraten. And what we've both experienced and had the opportunity to experience is the great appreciation by the Dutch people to the sacrifices that both the Canadians and the Americans and other allies, but it was really a very, very close tie between the Canadians and the Dutch, the Americans and the Dutch, the Americans and the Canadians for the experiences in World War II. My family, my parents were liberated by the Canadians. You have all of these deep ties and connections that go back.
It's amazing. I appreciate you bringing that up, Ambassador. We were just talking about that just before we got on the call. We obviously do enjoy that closest neighborly relationship, I think, of any two countries in the world. Some use the word family to describe our bond. How you've described it, how you feel about it, which is great. How does President Trump feel about that relationship with Canada? Does he see it the same way?
Well, the president has expressed a lot of appreciation in a number of different ways to our friends to the north. Okay, but no, the president, I think, feels very fondly. I think in the last few months, he's talked about how much he loves the Canadians. He clearly understands the personal ties that cross the border. He totally understands the deep business relationships that we have going across the border, and we also understands I think the historical the ties that we have, not only from World War II, the military ties, but if you go back, hey, he's from a town not founded by the Canadians, but founded by the Dutch. I mean, I think he's got a sense of history in all of these types of things. So, there's a deep admiration and I think an affection for the people north.
Absolutely. I'm sure you've heard of this.
You might say the people north, right? Because I also do realize one of the things I have learned, there's a good part of Canada that is actually south.
That's right.
Of a lot of parts in the U.S., including, I think, parts of Canada that are actually south of Holland, Michigan. I know that they're south of Sault Ste. Marie.
Absolutely.
Michigan. So, so north or south, whatever, a great appreciation for the relationship with the Canadians.
I appreciate that, Ambassador. And I don't want to turn the conversation sour right away, but I'm sure you've been asked a lot about the 51st state comments from other Canadians that you've met in the time you've done this job. Where did that come from then? And have we passed that discussion?
I am. I've told people I don't talk about it, so I'm not really going to talk about it with you either, other than, saying, when you're working for Donald Trump, okay, and you can see the urgency with which this president has been moving through the first, half year of his presidency. We need to get to results. The results and the mandate have been clearly laid out for us as diplomats around the world. We need to, do everything that we can to improve the prosperity of the American people, prosperity of our allies, but the focus as an American diplomat is the prosperity for America, safety for Americans, and our security. And so those are the things that I am focused on. I ask myself the question, if we're talking about the 51st state, am I improving the prosperity of Americans or Canadians? Am I improving the safety or security of either one of our countries? The answer is no. So thanks. You guys can talk about it tomorrow for 20 minutes if you'd like, about how, boy, that American ambassador was really evasive on that issue. So you can have that discussion tomorrow. I'm not focused on it.
All right, Ambassador, what do you see as your mission in this job? In other words, what marching orders did the president give you, and what do you hope to accomplish?
Well, like I said, I mean, the marching orders are very clear. The president has said, in my administration, I'm going to focus on increasing the prosperity of Americans and of our country. So this is why you saw the passage of the tax bill 6 weeks ago, because we believe that is going to drive economic growth and prosperity into the country. You can talk about the security. This is why, I'm sure somewhere along the line we'll talk about tariffs. We believe that for America to be secure, there are certain things that we need to do. We need to improve our deficit. We have to, we cannot sustain ourselves as a global power with a $37 trillion debt that we are increasing every year by $1 to $2 trillion. We had to address our own financial house for security. We needed to make sure that the key industries and technologies to make America strong from a military standpoint, we had to protect. So that's where you get into copper, steel, aluminum, and those types of things. To make America safe, needed to get our border under control, stop illegal immigration into the country, stop the flow of fentanyl into the country, and those types of things. What do I hope to accomplish? I hope to accomplish at the end of my tenure here is that we can go back and we can say we've made progress in each one of those areas. Is it going to be transformational? No, we've got a history between our two countries of more than 100 years of working on those same kinds of issues. So it's not transformative. But I want to make as much progress as we can in each one of those areas, because if we bring prosperity, security, and safety to America, I think the Canadian people are going to see the same types of benefits.
You mentioned tariffs, Ambassador, and I appreciate that answer. I'm hoping that because we have a chance to talk today, I'm hoping you can explain to our Canadian audience sort of the rationale that's driving the tariffs. There's a lot of information and misinformation that people hear. But after decades of prosperous free trade between our countries, what does the Trump administration hope to accomplish with tariffs? Like, what's the end game here?
Well, the first thing is never correct the interviewer, but it has not been free trade. Mm-hmm. Okay, free trade is very simple. You hold up a piece of paper and say, what are the tariffs between the two countries? What are the non-tariff trade barriers? And you look, coming from Canada into the U.S., there's nothing on it. Going from the U.S. to Canada, it's a blank sheet of paper. Well, that's not what it is. NAFTA was 1,000 pages long. Mm-hmm. USMCA is the same. There are all kinds of things that are out there. We're striving to achieve fairer trade for both countries, which will drive again prosperity into both countries. What are we trying? So we're trying to accomplish the fairer trade. The interesting thing is, your prime minister. We've had all this uproar and stuff over the last 7 months. Your prime minister, and I agree with him. Okay, but they've done the analysis, and they said we have the best trade deal of any country in North America. Nope. The West, nope. We've got the best trade deal of any country in the world right now with the United States of America. So that's a pretty good place to be in. What are we trying to accomplish in this relationship? I guess the negotiators have decided that there's not that they haven't been able to reach a new deal that frames us in different ways. And so they've decided to stick with that. But, we have carved out USMCA. and saying no tariffs on that. We're glad that Canada in recent weeks decided that they too would respect the USMCA. I mean, for 6-7 months, we were facing tariffs, significant tariffs on products coming from the U.S. that complied with USMCA that were being tariffed coming into Canada. We didn't do that. We recognize that there's an ecosystem that is developed because of continuing improvements in trade relationships that have tied our borders together. You're from Ontario, I'm from Michigan. We've got we not only have trade between the U.S. and Ontario and Canada, we have an ecosystem, especially like in automotive, right? I mean, this is not, we'll sell you. We got an ecosystem that says you build something in Ontario in the morning, in the afternoon, it could be on a car going to a dealership or to a customer. That's not trade. That's an ecosystem. I looked at the F-35. Okay, this is a plane that Canada may or may not buy more of. You said you're going to buy 16. I think that's a pretty firm order. I'm not sure it's a good idea for you, because now you're saying, well, for the next 72 state-of-the-art aircraft, we might buy something else. Sorry, I don't think Canada can afford 2 fighter platforms. Okay, but here's what we have: an ecosystem in the F-35. There's 30 Canadian companies that make parts for the F-35. Okay, 30. So every F-35, and there's over 1,240 of those flying out there right now, every one of those has parts manufactured by a Canadian company. It employs 2,000 people across the country. And with the uptick in what we're expecting and, we already have them, future orders, it could be another 2,000 employees for Canada. That's 4,000 employees, direct employees, that have high quality, high paying jobs because Canada was a part of the F-35 program. There's $3 million of Canadian content on every F-35. With a backlog of 2,400 more planes, booked orders already, that's a potential of over $7 billion of additional business coming into Canada. That's not just a simple, will you buy this, we'll buy that. It's like, no, that's an ecosystem.
You're definitely right using that term. We do have that ecosystem. It's been in place for a long time. You talked about auto parts crossing the border multiple times before something is built. But is it fair to say that the tariffs in a lot of ways have drastically altered that ecosystem? There's a lot of industries in Canada that are suddenly all of a sudden hurting really very, very badly, Ambassador. The steel industry, the aluminum industry, the forestry industry. So it has had a major impact on those industries. From where you're sitting, how do you react to that? What do you say to those industries?
Well, number one, the tariffs. Okay, everybody wants to blame everything on the tariffs. Okay, the effective tariff rate of Canadian goods going into the U.S., again, is outlined by your government, not the U.S. claiming something, is around 5.5%. Okay, that's not a huge number. We had to do the stuff on steel, aluminum, copper, and some of these types of things because the president wants our country to be secure. And we need the capability to produce those kinds of products in the United States. There have been opportunities to negotiate that and move that forward the Canadian government right now is talking about, maybe we can get smaller sector agreements on those things. But again, for those 4 or 5 items that fall under what we call Section 232 in American law, those tariffs have been put in place on every country in the world because we think we made some not so bright decisions in terms of how we would develop and make sure that we maintain those industries.
Is it working, Ambassador? I mean, obviously the goal is to bring more production, more of these maybe steel factories, for example, to America to improve the economy in America. Are you seeing that impact now, or are you seeing the opposite?
I mean, you're not going to see it in 7 months. I mean, the economic data for second quarter, I think in the U.S. was that we grew at around 3%. That's a pretty good growth rate. So I think there's some indication that it's working, but this is going to be a longer term thing. You don't build a steel plant overnight. Aluminum is even tougher because not only do you need the smelters, but more importantly, you need the electricity. They are vast consumers. A smelter is a huge consumer of electricity. It's why Canada is so strong in aluminum production because of the abundance and the cost of hydro. It enables you to produce aluminum at a fairly good global competitive price. And so I think, these are the kinds of issues that we need to work through now. We've been trying to work through them, and for some reason we have not been able to get there.
Ambassador, how often do you speak to Prime Minister Mark Carney, and what is he telling you?
I don't speak to Mark that often, okay? I talk to Mark's a busy guy. Okay, he's very, very active in being a good partner, I think, on a number of issues in terms of trade. He's trying to be helpful in terms of Ukraine. We're very much looking at a commitment and a partnership that Canada has had towards Haiti for an extended period of time, and that's going to be discussed at the UN in the coming days. But I have total access to the chief of staff, to the folks in his government that I need to have access to. Plus, why does Mark Carney need to talk to me? He can just get on the phone or text Donald Trump. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to try to work this out with Pete, or I'm going to talk to Donald. I'll tell you, I know exactly where I'm going. It's kind of like, hey, I like Pete. I hope he likes me. But I'm going to call the president, and I might, the wonderful thing about the president, because I'll call him and he answers the phone. I'm always amazed when it's kind of like, Mr. President, you're way too busy to answer my phone calls. Okay, I could have just left you a message. And so I hate to say it, but Mark might have a better chance to have the president picking up the call than me.
I do want to ask you this, Ambassador. I don't know if you've seen our Ontario Premier Doug Ford is very vocal about speaking out against some of the moves by the Trump administration, has talked openly about wanting to sit down with President Trump. Have you ever had a chance to meet with Doug Ford?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I mean, Doug's a great guy. He gave me one of your slightly odd-shaped Canadian footballs. Okay. And no, we had he brought in a couple of the parliamentarians that serve in the provincial parliament, Dutch heritage from around the Niagara region. They brought me some Dutch pastries. Diane and I loved it. So no, I've had the opportunity to talk with Doug, and of course, I mean, as being part of the Trump administration, it's kind of like. I watch what happens in the media. I watch what Doug says, as does the Trump administration, and they're a very media savvy bunch.
I was wondering if he brought you a bottle of Crown Royal, but I won't ask you that. Can you tell us any more details about your meeting with Premier Ford? Did anything come out of it? Was anything accomplished from your meetings with him?
Well, it was early in my tenure here, and we've had the opportunity since then to talk about a couple of different issues. And obviously, Doug is on a different page than where the U.S. administration is, and so so no, I haven't moved Doug to a point where I can get him to be a strong advocate for the Canadian-American relationship.
We have to keep working on it. We know you only have a few more minutes, so I just have a couple more questions, and we just have a couple more questions. You did mention the border. You mentioned fentanyl. Lots of discussion in the last few months about the flow of fentanyl coming from Canada across to the U.S. side of the border. Do you have figures on that, Ambassador? Do you know how big of a problem that is for you?
It's a big enough problem that that we're paying attention to it. And the other thing is, it's potentially bigger. As you see, number one, the president's taking this, and his team have made it very, very clear. 50,000 Americans per year losing their lives to fentanyl is 50,000 too many. Canada proportionally is losing the same number of folks. This should be a very much a Canadian-U.S. operation to stop the flow of fentanyl. We've been very successful in improving the situation on our southern border, but all the information that we're gathering from our law enforcement, for our intelligence folks, and these types of things is that the cartels and such, they're looking for other avenues now into the United States. They're looking into other places to process and manufacture some of these goods. We want a strong partnership in securing the border and, more importantly, law enforcement data sharing so that we can identify, the threats that we both face.
Ambassador, Canadians are traveling a lot less to the United States. Does that concern you?
Sure. I mean, what they do is they just don't get to see a wonderful part of the world. I enjoyed, Diana and I have enjoyed traveling through Canada. And like I said, I sometimes have a little bit of a hard time understanding this, okay? You have the best trade relationship of anybody in the world, the best trade tariff rate of anybody in the world. And we're, in the coming days, we're going to see that the process is going to evolve to, reviewing, USMCA. Okay. Does banning American alcohol, does that help? Does saying, we're not going to America, does that help? Those are decisions for Canadians on an individual basis, to make. Okay, we're doing everything we can to strengthen this relationship, to grow this relationship. If you have an ecosystem, and we know how long it took to develop this ecosystem, but if Canada decides that, from an economic and manufacturing standpoint, that ecosystem is no longer valuable to Canada and to the economy of Canada, that's okay. I think it would be hard to recreate that ecosystem, and there would be significant hardship as you transfer from that to try to create a new one. But again, that's a decision that is made by a sovereign state. I talked a little bit about defense. If Canada decides that they're going to go it alone on defense, and we're going to move away from the interchangeability and interoperability that the United States and Canada have shared for so long, that has been so effective and has been so cost effective. But if they want to go it alone and be the only plane in the only country in North America that's not using American equipment, that's a decision that you need to make. But remember, a lot of that equipment, I went through General Dynamics about a month ago. Mm-hmm. I didn't go through General Dynamics in the U.S. I went through General Dynamics in London, Ontario. They employ 1,800 people. Yes, the logo on the outside of the building is the logo of an American company, but it's 1,800 Canadians that are employed there. The hardware that is built there, the armored personnel carriers, they're sold to Canadians. The day that I went through there was also another foreign government that was at the facility, because they were looking at the American facility in London, Ontario, to provide armored personnel carriers to them in somewhere else in the world. If you say, hey, we don't want American military and footprint, we're going to develop our own. It's kind of like, okay, we can build those armored personnel carriers in the U.S. and ship them overseas. But right now, we've got a great relationship and a great workforce right here in Ontario that can produce those for Canada and for other places in the world.
You make a great point. We do have the best trade relationship, the best trade deal of any country in the world. I think the concern we hear from Canadians is all the sudden uncertainty of it all. So we have this deal in place, but then we're hearing this one day there'll be a 50% tariff added to this industry, a 25% tariff added to that industry. How do we move forward from that, Ambassador? How do we make a deal that brings back some certainty to Canadians and the Canadian industries that employ them?
Well, how do you bring back a deal that brings back certainty to America? Okay. I've got a lot of American companies that have contacted me and say, hey, Pete, we've been trying to sell into a certain province. Okay. But they've not only put in buy, Canadian, which is fine. We have buy American provisions. I voted for those when I was in Congress. Okay. But, their criteria is buy provincial, buy Canadian, buy international. And if and if you still haven't found a source, maybe you don't need to buy it. And as a last resort, buy American. If you really, 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 really need it, but you can't find it anywhere else, it's okay to buy America. Okay, that's some of the kind of stuff that we hear and feel. Is it the vast majority of what we hear? Absolutely not. The vast majority of businesses that we talk to are saying, yeah, Pete, we listen to all this noise, and yes, some of this does affect us. But we're still doing a lot of business with America, and you're doing a lot of business with us, and it's been a great relationship, and we want it to continue. Take care of the noise, settle this, and let's move forward.
Ambassador, I know you're tight for time before we let you go. Anything else you'd like to add? Any closing thoughts?
I think this has been much nicer than what I expected. But then again, you're Sault Ste. Marie and you're Ontario, and so you understand how important the relationship is. I really appreciate this, the opportunity to talk to you and to your viewers. It is an awesome relationship, and I want to be an advocate not only for America, but I want to be an advocate for Canada to America. We're looking for folks in Canada right now that can and I think should be. They should be advocates for Canada because you're Canadians. But at the same time, it would be nice to see more folks who are actually advocates for America. Okay? Donald Trump has given you the best deal of any country in the world. We have the framework and the opportunity to not only take a great relationship and make it much better. Okay. But again, I think that's true. That's what we would like to see. Whether that's what Canada wants or not, that's for your political leaders to decide. Being anti-American, I might as well get in trouble, right? We want to create a little bit of news today, okay? Otherwise, it'll be why should we watch these guys? They never make any news, I'm a politician. I spent 18 years, trying to get enough votes every 2 years to get reelected to Congress. Why I did that, I don't know. People sometimes will question my sanity, but I did that for 18 years, and I recognize that a lot of people in Canada, way too many, have made being anti-American good politics, being anti-Donald Trump being good politics. The only thing that I would lay out there for people to consider, when I ran for office, we always said good politics is good policy. Or good policy, excuse me, I got that backwards. Good policy is good politics. All right? Maybe that's something that we should all focus on. Let's do good policy so that that ends up being good politics, because that will bring prosperity, security, and safety to our countries. And we will have more of that if we do it together rather than doing it separately.
Can I just follow up on that, Ambassador, real quickly? I think, do you and the Trump administration understand that I think some of that anti-Americanism or frustration with America is because of the tariffs that have come in place in the last few months? All the uncertainty they brought, the job losses they've triggered, things like that. That's what's triggering the Buy Canadian movement, for example.
Right.
No. You've got the best trade deal, okay? other countries are dealing with this and have dealt with it in different ways. We've got new agreements with the EU. We've got new agreements with Japan. We've got new agreements with South Korea. We've got the EU. We got the UK. Yeah, we've worked through that. You continue to still have a better tariff deal than any of these countries in the world today. Is there uncertainty? Yes, but it would have been negligent on the part of American leadership to not address the problems that we faced. We had a long-term issue in terms of ensuring prosperity for the American people, a long-term issue with security and safety. And if the Canadians want to be mad about us addressing the internal issues that we had, they can do that. But in the long run, North America, the West, and all of that will be in a stronger position if we have a strong America, rather than if we had an America that was collapsing and having a debt crisis or unable to deal with the military threats out there because we just couldn't produce the things that we needed to produce. We saw this, I witnessed this when I was in the Netherlands. Okay. NATO was totally unprepared to deal with Russia. And what happened? Donald Trump raised the alarm on that for 4 years. And NATO laughed at Donald Trump, and NATO laughed at the United States of America. And as soon as Donald Trump was out of office, Russia invaded Ukraine. That is what weakness in America, and that is what weakness in the West will get you. We are fighting for a strong America. We are rebuilding America to be respected and strong. And I believe the West, and particularly Canada, because we share a 5,000-mile border, we have these ecosystems in place. Those ecosystems can grow and benefit Americans and Canadians. We've created lots of wealth on both sides of the border because of this relationship. Give us a break, not because we're trying to do the things that we need to do to strengthen America.
Mm-hmm. I think, sorry, this has been a great end to the conversation. The other concern I think that some Canadians have is the last USMCA was negotiated by the Trump administration. That's the deal that's currently in place. What kind of assurances can you give Canadians that when we negotiate the next deal or figure out hammering down the next agreement, that it's one that's going to stick?
Hey, who was the one that I love this because people ask me when we were in Europe dealing with NATO funding, all right, why do we need to pay for NATO? It's kind of like, well, because you said you were going to. Mm-hmm. And, Donald Trump doesn't support NATO. And, you're in the Netherlands. Donald Trump doesn't support NATO. And you kind of look and say, well, I don't know. We're paying 3.5% for military defense spending. You're spending 1.3%. I think we're spending on, and we're thoroughly committed to NATO, but if you're well below the commitment that you made, it appears that you're not committed to NATO. And the Dutch would hate that argument, right?
Yes.
But it's kind of like, I don't know, I'm kind of a simple guy. Just give me the facts. Mm-hmm. And the same thing here is on, USMCA. Who was the first country that started to undermine USMCA? Who imposed tariffs on USMCA compliant products? It was not the United States of America. We've always had a carve out for USMCA, and it's always been what's ever in the agreement. We were the ones that woke up one day and said, specifically, we're going to put tariffs on products that are in USMCA, which is a violation, I think, of USMCA. You might find a lawyer who would be willing to make that case if you paid him. We're the ones that are watching provinces undercut the spirit of the USMCA by saying, we're not even going to allow a single one of your products into the United States. We're going to, the spirit of the USMCA, we're going to tell our citizens not to travel to America. Okay, that's the spirit of the USMCA. We're not banning Canadian products. Diane and I, we just celebrated our 50th anniversary. We're going to be in Vancouver for business, and we said, you know what? Our keystone event for this 50th anniversary is we're going to spend a lot of money in Canada, and we're going to travel from Vancouver to Banff on the Rocky Mountaineer, the train.
Oh, what's the train called?
I think it's the Rocky Mountaineer.
It escapes me.
Yeah, but it was a phenomenal trip, and we could have said, "Well, we're in Vancouver. Let's go down to Seattle, and we'll spend all this money instead of spending it on a train in Canada, which was an awesome experience. We'll just spend it in America." Yeah, that's kind of like, now that's crazy. Okay, that's not how we feel about Canada.
That's great. Well, happy anniversary to you and your wife. That's an amazing. I think the only solution then, Ambassador, is for you to come on once a week, and we'll have a weekly conversation about how we can solve all the problems that are impacting the two countries. Or maybe we can invite President Trump on one of the calls. I think that should be, when you speak to the president next, just mention he needs to jump on this podcast.
And how much fun you had.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I'd be more than willing to be on at least once a week.
Twice a week is good. Yeah, twice a week.
Yeah, we'll see we'll see how long it takes to get another invite from you.
Amazing.
It will not take long. It will not take long.
Okay.
Great conversation.
Thank you very much for your time.
U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. Ambassador, thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm passionate about this relationship. I want it to be great.
Well, I feel like the only thing that's missing is a bottle of Jack on the table after that discussion.
I know. Oh,
what a character.
He was great.
He was terrific.
He was great. We could have chatted for 6 days. And
well, apparently he's coming on every week.
Yeah,
so.
well, that's a weekly segment. It could be like a closer look with Pete Hoekstra.
Yeah.
The offer is serious. President Trump is always welcome to come on the show. Hopefully, we now have a direct line to the U.S. president.
We do.
Ambassador Hoekstra seems to.
At least that's what we're going to tell people.
Yeah, we're telling people. Well, we're telling everyone right now.
Right.
He said that he chats with them on a regular basis and briefs them on what's going on. So who knows? You never know what can happen. But it just, to me, that conversation just goes to the root of just how complex these issues are.
Yeah.
And the various, I don't want to use the word spin, but the various points people have across the board on this, right? We do have a great trade deal with America. That's been the basis of our trade deals for the last few decades, right? But there's a lot has changed in the last few months. We're seeing all these kind of ad lib, here we go, 50% here, 25% there. And it's not clear what could happen in the next week, in the next month. So that's part of the challenge. And so a lot of Canadians are anxious about what's going on and wondering what's going to happen and what the end result would be. The other thing is down the line of next year, we're going to be renegotiating the current agreement. Right? There's lots of discussions. Yeah. There's a lot of behind the scenes things happening right now. It'd be amazing to be a fly on the wall in Pete Hoekstra's office for a week and just hear the conversations he's having with various people. Yeah, unbelievable. Hearing him talk about meeting Doug Ford was great too. Because obviously Premier Ford has been trying very hard to get the ear of Donald Trump since he was elected, and clearly he was able to spend some time with the U.S. ambassador. So absolutely, he's working his way up there.
All right, good chat. Great week. Closerlookpodcast.ca. You can sign up and subscribe. We'll send you brand new episodes right to your inbox every single day. Good week. Have a great weekend.
You as well.
All right, for Michael Friscolanti, Editor-in-Chief here at Village Media, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for watching this week. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you Monday night at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.